All right, today I'm with Alan Lindsley. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Springtime is here.
Yes, I really love to come here because the hospitality, who you are, your knowledge, and the fact that you're passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
And you're so passionate that you have decided to create a new product that's called Joint-Regen. And what is that? What is it all about, this product?
Well, we've been doing chiropractic for over 20 years now. What we found was there were so many young kids tearing ligaments and tendons in sports injuries. And it's like 80% of injuries today are non-contact.
Yep.
I'm getting to be kind of old now, but when I grew up, we didn't have a non-contact injury. It was sprained ankles, broken bones, but no one tore an ACL, no one tore a Achilles tendon. Just, we never saw any of that stuff. So I started seeing more and more people coming in with that kind of problem, with an ACL tear or just sore knees.
Mm-hmm.
And then people that aren't really playing sports anymore, but are just trying to be active, running, biking, CrossFit, lifting, just really powerful movements. They're having all these micro tears, and then they would have a create a misalignment in the joint, and they would come in, and I would do origin insertion work and the AK and fix it up for them, and it would last a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I realized after a while that I was missing something.
Yep.
Especially the young athletes. You should be able to jump up and land from grabbing a rebound or spiking a volleyball or playing football and not injure yourself. And most of the kids coming in that were younger, under the age of 20, that were playing sports, either high school or college, were tearing ligaments and tendons with no contact. So then one day I had a young boy come in, he was 17, he had just torn his ACL for the second time in 11 months. And I asked him, I said, he's a big kid, 210, let's see what that'd be in kilograms, 210 pounds, I don't know, would that be?
Me, I'm that weight.
Yeah. So he was 6'1", 210, very powerful, and he had just torn his ACL for the second time. And I asked him what he'd done, and was playing basketball, coming down from a rebound. His knee just collapsed and shattered. He said almost like a gun going off. And he went in and had his ACL removed and replaced, fixed the meniscus, 2 other ligaments, 9 months of rehab. And he said the physical therapist said, "You're good to go." So he started playing, working his way back in, and within 2 months, up for another rebound, came down, same knee, blew it apart again. So now the surgeons are saying, "You did it wrong." "No, I didn't. You did it wrong." And so they came in and asked me what was going on. And I found a little bit of Lyme, like I find in everybody from this part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't cause ACLs to tear. It causes irritation or inflammation, And so when I started evaluating his joints, his muscles were making perfect energy. When I would slide into the white tissue of the joint, which is almost all cartilage, it's almost all collagen in the joints, over 80%. I found that the vial that I was testing with showed that he was not making energy. He wasn't converting energy there, which I thought was very strange. So I checked his right knee, same problem, shoulders, so all the joints weren't making energy. And I was just going down to teach collagen dysfunction and glyphosate and what we were finding. And I said, wait a second, I just read a couple books on copper. And copper, of course, runs the electron transport pathway. So we talk just a little bit about energy. Copper has 2 main roles in the joints and cells in general. Number one, in the electron transport chain, the bigger my copper wire I have in the wall, the more electrons I can carry, and the more power I can create.
Yes.
So it's all about moving electrons. If I cut the wire in the wall, no power.
Absolutely.
So if I remove the copper out of the cell in the electron transport chain, it's just like a wire in there. If you take the copper out, it's like cutting the wire. They can't make any energy. So what's happening today for anybody that's an athlete or older person that's just trying to be active, I'm not talking about just normal movements. If you can't have a daily routine of, I also let's say you go and you work out and you wear yourself out, and with lifting you create micro tearing in the muscle and fibers, but then you should be able to in 24 to 40 hours repair that for the next lift.
Yes.
So there's not enough energy there. You cannot make enough energy to wear micro tear repair. You're not repairing. So every time you go in, if you're not cross-linking the fibers properly and you have a little bit of micro tear, it's a micro tear, boom, catastrophic failure. Now it's your Achilles, now it's your shoulder, your rotator cuff, or it's your knee. And this is what I've been seeing in my practice for years. And I would go and I would help them, I'd push it back together.
Yes.
But we didn't have the copper for the energy part. We didn't have the copper to cross-link, and that's the second thing that copper does. Is copper creates what they call a shift bond, and that's a bond between collagen fibers. We'll do a little bit of whiteboard work in a minute.
Yes.
So what really makes your collagen strong is the copper cross-linking between collagen fibers that lets that collagen stretch and bend and twist and not break. Remember, people forget collagen is stronger than steel, ounce for ounce, pound for pound. So you should be able to put some amazing force. So when I jump and land, for example, I'm putting 10 times my body weight through my knee.
Yes.
Standing at your body weight. If I walk, it doubles. If I go to run, it's 4 times. But when I jump and land, accelerate, decelerate very quickly, it's up to 10 times your body weight. Mm-hmm. Now, what people forget is that the muscles cross the joints. Your quad muscle attaches below the knee.
Yes.
Your calf muscles attach above the knee, and half your hamstrings attach below the knee. And it creates that cross-linking there. So when I want to stop, my muscle's responsible for 90% of the motion to stop. And so imagine now what happens in the body if Nicholas, if you tear your quad muscle near the tendon, near the knee, the body knows that in the actual sensors in your knee, they're called Golgi tendon organs.
Yes.
And they sense that tear and they shut the muscle off, almost like turning the volume down your radio. Mm-hmm. It says, I need to protect you from tearing it more. You were squatting too much today, so it turns it down. And it will not turn the volume back up, the strength back up until that repairs. So guess what? I'm working out. You work out a lot. You lift a lot of weights. You train people. If there's a micro tear there, that muscle won't get 100% contraction out of it. So the first time you go to test a muscle, you'll find that they can't hold you. So I don't call that physically weak. It's called neurologically unplugged. Your body has actually created a situation where it says, I'm going to stop you from tearing it more, so I'm going to turn the muscle down. So I'm going to check one muscle on you. We can even play with this. The muscle, the first time you check it, is weak. So the first time you go to do a squat or a run, that muscle's not holding. And then what happens is, instead of having this beautiful alignment of my joints, you get a muscle turned off, which creates just a slight misalignment. Mm. Now, you probably drove a car. You drove a car to my house today.
Absolutely.
If that car, if your car was pulling to the right when you drove it all the time, and you could feel pulling, and Nicholas says, well, I'm just too busy to take it to the shop and have the tires aligned. Yeah. So he just holds the wheel to the left a little bit. Yeah. Now, guess what? Your body can hold itself to the left a little bit, even though the joint's not lining up. And after thousands of reps or steps, what we're seeing accelerated damage to the collagen, more to the cartilage on the surface of the joint. Mm-hmm. So if I misalign the joint just by a couple degrees, yes, it rubs off one edge of the joint, or it puts quite a bit more pressure on one edge of the joint, and that might cost me a meniscus, or it might cause an ACL tear, or my lateral collateral ligaments in my knee. And then guess what? Then I have this pain. Oh, I got bursitis. I got tendonitis. Yes. You have microtearing, which creates the misalignment, which creates the inflammation. And then you set yourself up for an injury. And one day you're doing a squat, or you're in the middle of a game, CrossFit or a game, really powerful, and it tears. You see it probably in your line of work.
I can see it for myself.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm 39.
Yeah.
And I can feel that my joints are less able to receive the stress that I put on with all the training and all that. It's very longer to recuperate. Yeah. And I take care of myself. Yeah. I cannot imagine how other people can feel, because they are not eating that good. Right. They are not supplementing that good. No. I would have difficulty to imagine how I would feel if I was not doing all that. Yeah. And also, I would address you were talking about copper. Yeah. What's the best source of copper in the nutrition normally?
Well, you can get copper. Liver actually is the best source of copper. So if you did a dehydrated liver, I believe it's got 2 parts copper, 1 part iron in there. So that's probably the best. It's in the form your body already wants to get it. Yeah. And I would suggest doing a pasture-fed or organic version of that if you could find it. They are hard to find because where I live in Wisconsin now, probably 93% of the crops are sprayed with Roundup now, with glyphosate. Mm-hmm. And it's completely decimated, or so low, the copper in our soil. And copper in Wisconsin is already naturally low. Selenium's naturally low here. There's no iodine. And so we actually have some low minerals in the soil. And when you keep spraying the glyphosate on, the Canada's much the same. There's over 100 foods. I've seen interviews with Anthony Samsel years ago, a gentleman from Canada, and interviewing him and talking about all the foods he was testing. It was very interesting. So what we're finding is that the copper is low in the soil, it's now low in our body because when we're drinking a Powerade or maybe a Gatorade, if you look at the ingredients on the back of a bottle of sports drink, if it says high fructose corn syrup, you can guarantee there's glyphosate there.
Bingo.
Because they're spraying all the corn with glyphosate. It gets into the crop, it gets into the actual sugar, it gets into the bottle, and you're literally drinking glyphosate at times. And what glyphosate does, it displaces your glycine molecule, and we'll talk about it, we'll whiteboard in a second, in your collagen chain. And it's a chelator, so it's going to steal your minerals. It happens to like copper 10,000 times more than it likes magnesium. So it has a huge affinity for copper, so it steals. Remember, every cell in the body has about 30 million copper atoms just for energy production. Your heart has over 100 million because it's got to be a lot stronger, a lot more powerful. So what's happening, if I strip the copper out of your heart, it never has the strength it needs anymore. You might go into AFib, you might have loss of heartbeat there, or a weakened heartbeat. Now in your muscles, if I take the copper out, the energy's not there, so you can't do the number of reps that you'd want to do. Lactic acid builds up because it's at the end of the Krebs cycle.
Yes.
If you can't make enough energy and with oxygen and what gets to ATP, what you're going to do is make lactic acid. So the two big things that we discovered for the joints with Joint-Regen is we actually have 3 forms of copper in here.
3
forms of copper, different variations for what the collagen might want. It's got the magnesium in it, boron in it. And so it's really good at going in there and helping keep those tendons cross-linked and an energy back on. So this is a very high transdermal cream. It goes in seconds. And I do muscle testing in the clinic on this. And in 30 seconds to a minute, if you put it on a shoulder joint and retest the joint, the muscle will turn back on. I know it sounds crazy, but I tell all my patients that are doing CrossFit or are athletic, I said, please use it before you exercise. Put it on 15, 20 minutes before because it seems to stabilize that muscle. Cut that part out.
Absolutely. So it seems to
stabilizes the muscle, so when you are moving, if you rub it on your joint, the muscle should be in full strength so you actually have full alignment.
Yes.
The worst thing we can do for our body is not move, it's move misaligned. That's the hugest thing. And I jokingly say if you're religious, I'll tell you that biblically you should last 120 years. I just want 100 out of you, okay? Without having any joints replaced. But when things happen really slowly over time, 30, 40, 50 years of slowly changing how the body works, we fully accept in the United States now that you should have at least 1 joint replaced by the time you're 65. I see it all the time.
One of my best friends is 39, already 2 hip replacement each side.
And they will tell you, oh, it's congenital. That means you were born with a malformed hip. But these people played sports, ran, and I've had a 38-year-old in my office. She was a larger person, a lot of muscle on her. She wasn't a very light person, but by 39, she had both hips replaced.
Terrible. And
I said to her, what was your favorite thing to do? She said, I love to run. And her knees are next. Because she's having a lot of pain in her knees. Yes, and I always go back, there was some Lyme there, but you know, they used to say that motion's lotion to your joints, right? The more you move, the better your joint should be.
Yeah.
Now it just accelerates the death of the joint when there's a copper deficiency there. And that's what this little insidious thing did back in the 80s when they started introducing the herbicides into our food supply. That's what happened. And they didn't, I don't believe they knew that it was going to steal copper like it does, but it's very, very tough on the joints because if you can't make energy, you can't have any strength of the tendons or ligaments, the muscle turns off, the joint misaligns, and then you're stuck.
Absolutely. And a final thought that I have is, why do you think people that have Lyme disease in their system should use it? Why should they use it?
One of the biggest things that we found when I'm checking, I've done about 75,000 checks for Lyme. Some of them are the same patients over the last 15 years, some are new patients, but over and over again, I found that Lyme was always hiding in the joints and the upper part of the brain, spinal cord. And I was like, oh, it's white tissue. It loves to hide in the white tissue. Well, that was one part of it. But now, looking back, yes, it hides in the white tissue, the ligaments, the tendons, the cartilage, the synovial fluid, the upper part of your brain crosses the blood-brain barrier. But what I found is any pathogen will want to hide where you can't kill it.
Exactly.
So if I can't make enough energy in my shoulder, I can't make enough energy in my knee, the bugs will move into that area, and it says, wow, I like it here. I've got food supply. I've got a weakened immune system. And what I was testing over and over again with people was that the muscles rarely have Lyme in them. If you get bit, maybe for 3 or 4 weeks, you'll show that your muscles are sore from Lyme. But then your body will, immune system upregulates, and you get after it, and then it heads for the hills. And I mean, heading for the hills, it goes into the joints and goes up into the brain. And anybody that's been treated with antibiotics for 3 or 4 weeks, a month, maybe longer, when they come off of it within a few months, they feel all the Lyme come back, all the symptoms, especially in the joints. What I didn't realize until just about a year ago was if you don't have enough energy in your joint, you can't fight. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know is your white blood cells make energy the same way your tissue cells make energy. So my muscles, my ligaments, my tendons, my brain, and my immune cells all use mitochondria.
Yeah.
They all use the Krebs cycle. So if my tissue in my knee is low in copper, the immune cells that live there are low in copper, and the average white blood cell has about 200 mitochondria per immune cell. Interesting, right?
Yes.
And so I was reviewing some stuff one time about 6 months ago, and I was like, oh my God, that's why Lyme hides here, is because you can't make enough energy. The immune cells can't make enough energy either. So as you put the cream on transdermally, after about 4 months, we start to see the point where we start seeing the immune cells turn back on and the tissue starts to saturate, so you're starting to get back to full energy. I'll never stop using the cream because you're never going to get glyphosate out of the food supply. I don't think in this lifetime, even if it's organic. Maybe it's organic. It's probably less conventional. You know, I always say we have to invent words like organic. Before 1950, everything was organic.
Absolutely.
And then they had to create the analogy non-contact sports injury because we didn't really see those before, let's say 1985. It was very, very rare to hurt yourself running down a football field, jumping and landing. It hasn't been until the last 15 or 20 years, because about 96 they started really spraying the oats and the wheat, the corn, the soy, and then it's just been progressively going into more foods. And when that happens, it's coming in on the food supply, it's coming in on the water, it's a little bit in the air, and when it comes in, it gets into the cells, grabs the copper, makes the collagen very brittle. And we're gonna whiteboard in a second here. And now we've got a real big problem, because now at 55, 60, so many people that are my age have joint pain all the time. And when they go in, typically it's too late. So what people don't know is when you hit 17 or 18, you stop growing and your growth plates close. When the growth plate closes, there's no direct blood supply to the cartilage on the surface of your joint. Okay? So if I cut off the blood supply to the cartilage, what I have is what I have. It's kind of like brake pads on your car.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
You can get a lot of miles on your brake pads if you're not hard on them.
Yeah.
So if you have, or let's just use tires. I always use tires for an example. If you're fully aligned, you can get 60,000, 100,000 K out of your tires. Okay?
Yes.
That's common, a really good tire. But if the car's pulling to the right, you might get a season or 2 seasons out of your tires, and one day you walk around the car and you're in the parking lot and you're like, oh my God, all the rubber's gone, all the tread's gone. So when you walk into an orthopedic surgeon's office, quite often the cartilage is gone because there is no nerve supply to cartilage and the joint surface. So no direct blood supply, no nerve supply, no pain receptors. So until you wear the cartilage off the surface of the joint,
yes,
and you start touching bone to bone, oh yeah, you break a bone, a lot of pain receptors.
Oh yeah.
And so it fires off and it gets your attention. So you finally go in with a big surgeon because your aspirin or your NSAIDs aren't working anymore, your anti-inflammatories, and he's like, well, Nicholas, I'm sorry, but you're bone on bone. When do you want to replace that? And you're like, whoa, wait. And you're only 43.
That means that this cream is also like for prevention.
So 2 things with this cream, and you know, because of the rules, we can't say anything more than that it natural regenerative support. So yes, when I use this cream, I'm trying to prevent my joint from failing by having full alignment there. Now, you do have a little bit of ability to repair cartilage, but it's never as fast as you're going to wear it out when you have that misalignment. It's virtually impossible. So what the whole idea of, so there's different products out there. Icy Hot, Bengay, BioFreeze, in the United States. I know they have that in Canada. None of the products in the market today are regenerative or supportive. It's a little bit of it felt warm when I put it on. This is the first product. This is the first product that I know of that actually gives full regenerative support. And that's why we're really excited about this. Of all the things we've done in 20 years of work, I think this is going to be the biggest impact for people because you can keep your joints, you can exercise, you should not be in pain. So I use it on my back every day. I use it on my joints every day. And I encourage my patients to do that because I tell my patients, I don't want to have you getting your joints replaced. I don't want to ever have to see going into a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
And two things keep you out of a nursing home. Do you know what they are?
Go for it.
Can you get out of the chair?
Yeah.
And do you know where you're going? And so if your knees and your hips are so bad or the muscles are so weak because you couldn't exercise anymore, because when people hurt, what do? They stop doing that activity.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them, if your joints are healthy and you can do 50 or 100 squat benders a day, you'll never have to go to a nursing home because of that, because you get to hang on to that muscle. And the other part is the brain. So the copper, the 4 biggest users of copper in the body are the brain, heart, liver, kidney.
Oh, yeah.
So I tried for about a year and a half to just have people take oral supplements of copper. So I tried for about a year and a half to try to use just a copper supplement for the joints.
Yes.
Because some people are like, oh, I don't want to do the cream. I'm like, okay, can I just do the supplement? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
And then I found sometimes the copper supplement would make people's tummies hurt. It was really interesting. Zinc has to be with food, and copper also. So they were doing 4 to 6 milligrams a day. Nothing crazy, but probably what the RDA would require. Up to 10 it seems to be fine. But even after 12 months of taking the copper supplement, I would go back and check the joints. And I'm using my energy vial. Are they converting? And I, over and over again, no matter their age, I found that the copper was literally not getting to the joints.
My question would be why?
So I thought a lot about this because I'll check people with the vial system, and I'm always trying to measure how far I can move the vial away from their body with the muscle testing and still have the resonator or muscle test go weak.
Yeah.
And I would always see that after a year of taking the copper, the brain was making a little better energy, the heart was making a little bit better energy, the liver was better. And I thought,
this is a priority system.
The body has a priority system, and it prioritizes the vital organs over your left knee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want both. So, and that young boy I talked about,
yep.
His mother came in at the same time, and she'd been kind of a patient that had some Lyme stuff going on. So I checked her the same day. I thought, well, she's my age, I'll check her. And she had the same problem. The joints weren't making energy. Copper seemed to correct that. So I had them both. I said, hey, take this cream. And I added the copper to the cream that day. Go ahead and put on your joints. And I checked them at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. And about 4 months, it seemed like his joints were really starting to make energy very nice. Like he was finally making full energy. Now, I don't know if it was enough copper there to really cross-link the collagen fibers, but he was making full energy. So at 6 months when he came in, I couldn't push a muscle on him. Every muscle was perfectly strong. So I'm thinking, okay, he's making energy, and he's probably got enough copper there to cross-link. At 8 months, Mom says, hey, I've just been coming along. Can you check me quick? And so she had 15 minutes. I put her on the table, and I went through my routine, and I was going around to her joints, and none of her joints were making energy.
Oh.
So I said, hey, did you do that cream and take the... She goes, well...
Not that much.
I didn't like the cream, so it took too long, and it was a pain in the butt. And this 17-year-old looks up from his phone, and he's like, Mom, it takes like a minute.
Absolutely.
So she goes, I didn't use the cream, but I did use the copper supplement.
Okay.
And here's the interesting, that was the first time so then I could always tell if somebody was really using the cream. You use the cream? Yeah, I'm using it on my right shoulder. What about the rest of your joints? Oh, they don't hurt too bad. Yeah, every joint will show the same problem. So that was interesting. So she wasn't using the cream. 8 months out, no change to the joints at all. And I would check other patients, and I would find the same problem. If they just wanted to use a supplement, maybe if you took more, it might have got there. But the really cool part about the cream, the really neat part about it, is transdermally, it seems to turn the muscles back on in seconds. And then because of the carriers that we have in here, the base of DMSO also, I think that we're going to actually saturate the joints, but even use that as another way to feed the body.
Absolutely.
After a while.
Very interesting. One thing that comes to my mind right now is a lot of people are taking collagen. Myself, I'm taking some.
Yeah.
But if you're taking a lot of collagen during the day, or collagen peptide, but you don't have enough copper in your body, will it have the same effect?
I don't think it will. Now, I always jokingly tell my patients, if you want to gain muscle, for example, but you don't want to be active at all, do you think eating 3 pounds of ribeye a day will give you big muscles?
Don't think so.
What do you have to do, Nicholas?
Put the stress on.
You have You have to, so when you eat steak or ribeye, I like ribeyes tonight, you're going to take the amino acid pool into the body, and you have the potential to build muscle then with the hormone and the stress and the signal. Collagen is much the same way. Think of collagen as an amino acid chain.
Yes.
When it comes into the intestine, the stomach, and into the small intestine, we're going to take that collagen and break it all the way apart into single amino acids. So there's a bit of a misnomer there in the collagen world. It's a $60 million a year in the United States alone industry. But most collagen, if you look it up, 94% I believe is cowhides. I'm sure most of those cowhides are not organic. So cowhide is collagen. The glyphosate will come directly into the collagen chain. We're gonna whiteboard in a second. And then you take it in the body and you chop it up into single amino acids. Now it gives you the amino acid pool to make collagen. But I can tell you there won't be enough copper in there, because I see the same problem. When we were dairy farming, grew up on a dairy farm, one of our cows in our herd would probably last 7 to 10 years. The cow had good protein, good amino acids, good mineral.
Yep.
Today, the average cow in a dairy herd lasts about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
They're pushing them harder, but also there's more mineral issues there, more glyphosate issues. And so the two big things that seem to happen is that the animals also copper deficient. And I don't think people are actually recognize that, because most of the corn grown here and the soybeans, and now they have Roundup Ready alfalfa, that cow is ingesting glyphosate in all three forms all the time. And so, of course, it's doing a number to the copper. So not only is the ground low in copper, the feed will also bind the copper, so the animals are very low. So a lot of them go lame. Interesting thing in the horse world, they call it laminitis. So there's a lot of hoof problems. You know how a hoof is all collagen and should be very hard? You'll see cysts inside the hoof.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the hoof is separating from the horse, and laminitis is often a copper deficiency.
Oh.
So we could eat our fingernails, and I can cut Nicholas's hair off. It's pretty short right now, and he could chew on that. That's collagen, right? But people don't think about that. Well, I like that brown chocolate collagen powder, but you're just eating collagen, and it's going to become, you don't build new ligaments by eating your hair or eating your fingernails. And it's the same way with collagen. So I don't think it has the benefit. Potentially, if you had a collagen cream with peptides, you could pull it in that way, and it would get to the cell faster. But through the gut system, 99.99, probably 9% of all proteins, because collagen is a protein by definition, or amino acid chain, is going to be broken up. So Nicholas can go build his own ACL or his rotator cuff tendon or ligament. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't think the benefit is what a lot of people believe it probably is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good point of view. Very good explanation. And anything else you want to say about your new product?
I'm excited to get this into the sports world. I think we could probably eliminate 90% of the injuries in the sports world today that are non-contact just by getting this into the right hands.
It leads me to a last final question. Do you recommend normally to put that on every joint?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Which quantity?
So I always, now in the tubes, whatever would go on the end of your finger would be enough. It's very powerful. It moves very quickly into the tissue. You don't have to lather yourself. It's a very light coating on. What's really interesting is the way this is formulated. A lot of people have huge pain relief from this. The benefit of, and a lot of my patients would say, well, I put it on in 15 minutes. My pain is so reduced. Sometimes my shoulder pain's gone, and I couldn't understand that for the longest time. Well, what is the pain? Is the pain the misalignment? Is the pain lactic acid? So I don't know exactly all the things it's doing, but anybody who has chronic joint pain,
yes,
I would never say it's going to grow back a cartilage beautifully if you're bone on bone. But if you have a misalignment there and there's tendonitis or bursitis there, eventually that will form arthritis. When you lose the cartilage and bone starts to get close to bone, that's when the articulating, inflammation. So arthritis, if you break that word down, arthro means articulation and itis means inflammation. So osteoarthritis is the bones of my articulating joint are now inflamed and they start to calcify.
Yes.
Anytime you lose cartilage off the surface of a joint, it'll try to grow together. A vertebra in the back, bone spurs, that's what we're seeing here. So yes, I use it on every joint, low back, my neck. If I could rub it on my spine, I can figure out a way to do it. I do that also. That's 24 joints right there, isn't it? They're all little joints there. And the end game is to build up a saturation point where that tissue is fully saturated, fully making energy properly, so you don't have to worry about that injury, just doing a normal routine. Because most people, when they're injured, aren't doing something crazy. They're just jumping and landing or twisting and turning. And after 20 years, I've seen it hundreds of times in my clinic, and now I actually have something to offer them that should help their joints last a lifetime.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Lindsay.
Yeah. We're gonna whiteboard it quick?
And another video.
Okay.